What if the biggest financial opportunity of this decade has been hiding in plain sight? What if the metal most people ignore today suddenly becomes the center of the global financial system tomorrow? For years, silver has been treated like the forgotten cousin of gold. While the world focused on stocks, crypto, real estate, and artificial intelligence, silver quietly waited in the background. But now something is changing. The signs are becoming impossible to ignore. Central banks are nervous, industrial demand is exploding, mining supply is struggling, and investors across the world are starting to wake up. Many analysts now believe that silver may be preparing for the biggest move in modern financial history. And if that happens, the people paying attention today could be years ahead of everyone else. Welcome back to Pulse of Silver, the channel where we break down the biggest stories, trends, and warnings shaping the future of silver. Today's story may be one of the most important we've ever covered because the setup happening right now looks very different from anything we have seen before. For decades, silver has been undervalued compared to gold. Historically, the gold-to-silver ratio stayed around 15-1 for long periods of history. That meant 1 ounce of gold could buy around 15 ounces of silver. But today, that ratio has been sitting far higher than normal, sometimes above 80-1. To many silver investors, that is a warning sign that silver is deeply underpriced. The reason this matters is because silver is not just a precious metal anymore. It has become one of the most important industrial metals on Earth. Modern technology depends on it. Solar panels need silver. Electric vehicles need silver. Military technology uses silver. Medical equipment uses silver. Smartphones, batteries, semiconductors, and energy systems all rely on silver in some way. The world is demanding more silver than ever before at the exact moment supply is becoming harder to find. This is where the situation becomes serious. Most people assume silver can simply be mined endlessly if demand rises. But the truth is far more complicated. Silver production is not growing fast enough to meet future demand. Many silver mines are aging, new discoveries are becoming rare, and environmental regulations are slowing development in multiple countries. Even worse, most silver is produced as a byproduct of mining for other metals like copper and zinc. That means silver production cannot easily increase unless those other mining industries also expand. This creates a dangerous imbalance between future demand and future supply. At the same time, governments around the world continue printing money at historic levels. Inflation may cool temporarily, but the long-term debt problem has not disappeared. The United States alone carries trillions of dollars in debt, and many other nations are in similar positions. History shows that when trust in paper currency begins to weaken, investors often rush toward hard assets. Gold usually moves first. But silver often moves faster once momentum begins. This is why many long-term investors believe the next silver rally could become explosive. They are not just expecting a price increase. They are expecting a financial shift that changes how the world sees silver forever. And perhaps the biggest warning sign of all is that large institutions are quietly positioning themselves before the public fully notices. Big money rarely waits until headlines appear on television. By the time average investors hear about a trend, the smart money is often already inside the market. That is why so many silver analysts are paying close attention right now. They believe the early stages of a massive move may already be underway. To understand why silver could be approaching the biggest move of the century, we need to look at what is happening behind the scenes in the global economy. Right now, the financial system is under pressure from every direction. Inflation continues hurting consumers, interest rates remain unstable, banking confidence has weakened in recent years, and geopolitical tensions are rising across multiple regions. These problems may seem unrelated at first, but together they create the perfect environment for precious metals to explode higher. When people lose confidence in traditional systems, they search for safety. That has happened throughout history again and again. During financial crises, wars, currency collapses, or periods of high inflation, hard assets usually become more attractive. Gold has traditionally been the main safe haven asset, but silver often follows with even bigger percentage gains. That is because silver has a smaller market and lower liquidity compared to gold. When money starts flowing into silver quickly, prices can move aggressively in a very short period of time. But today's situation is unique because silver is facing pressure from two sides at the same time. On one side, investors want silver as protection against economic uncertainty. On the other side, industries desperately need silver to build the technologies of the future. This combination is extremely rare. In previous decades, silver demand was mostly tied to jewelry and investment. Today, industrial demand is becoming just as important, and in some cases even more important. The green energy revolution is a major part of this story. Governments around the world are pushing for renewable energy systems. Solar power is expanding rapidly, and silver is one of the key materials required for solar panel production. Every major economy wants cleaner energy, but very few people stop to ask where the raw materials will come from. Silver sits at the center of that question. Electric vehicles also require far more silver than traditional cars because of their complex electronic systems. As the world moves toward electrification, silver demand continues climbing. Meanwhile, silver inventories have been shrinking in some areas of the market. Physical silver buyers have been removing metal from exchanges and storage facilities. Retail demand has stayed surprisingly strong even during periods of price weakness. Many investors see lower prices as an opportunity to accumulate more ounces before a potential breakout. Some analysts compare today's environment to the early stages of previous commodity supercycles where prices remained quiet for years before suddenly exploding upward. There is also growing concern about the paper silver market. Some investors believe the amount of silver traded on paper far exceeds the amount of physical silver actually available. If physical demand ever overwhelms supply, it could create a major shock in the market. This is one reason why some silver supporters believe prices today do not reflect silver's true value. They argue that the market has been artificially suppressed for years and that eventually reality will catch up. What makes this moment even more interesting is that average people still seem largely disconnected from the silver story. Most retail investors are still chasing technology stocks, short-term trading trends, or speculative assets. Very few are paying attention to silver compared to previous bull markets. For experienced investors, this often signals opportunity. Major bull runs usually begin quietly before public excitement arrives. By the time silver dominates headlines again, prices may already be far higher than they are today. One of the most important things to understand about silver is how emotional this market can become once momentum starts building. Silver does not usually move slowly during major bull markets. It tends to stay quiet for long periods and then suddenly surge higher when fear and excitement enter the market together. That is why many long-term silver holders continue waiting patiently despite years of frustration. They believe that once the breakout begins, it could happen faster than most people expect. We saw a glimpse of this in previous silver rallies. In 2011, silver briefly approached $50 per ounce. The move shocked investors around the world because prices rose so quickly in such a short period of time. But even that rally happened in a completely different economic environment than today. Back then, industrial demand for silver was much lower than it is now. The green energy transition had barely started. Electric vehicles were not mainstream, and global debt levels were far smaller than they are today. This is why some analysts believe the next silver rally could be even more powerful. Another factor driving attention towards silver is the growing distrust in traditional financial institutions. Many people no longer believe central banks can control inflation forever. Others worry that governments may continue printing money whenever economies weaken. This creates long-term pressure on currencies and savings. For average families, rising costs of food, housing, healthcare, and energy have already changed daily life. In that environment, hard assets become attractive because they cannot simply be printed into existence. Silver also carries a unique advantage compared to gold because it remains more affordable for ordinary investors. While gold prices may seem out of reach for many people, silver still allows smaller investors to accumulate physical metal over time. This psychological factor matters more than many analysts realize. During periods of economic uncertainty, average people often prefer assets they can physically hold and understand. Silver coins and bars become symbols of security and independence during uncertain times. At the same time, institutional interest in commodities appears to be increasing again. Some large investors believe the world is entering a new commodity cycle driven by energy transition demands and resource shortages. If that trend continues, silver could become one of the biggest beneficiaries. Unlike digital assets or paper investments, physical silver has real-world utility. Modern economies literally need it to function. That creates a powerful foundation for long-term demand. There is also a growing belief among silver supporters that the market has been ignored for too long. Compared to stock markets worth trillions of dollars, the silver market remains relatively small. This means it would not take enormous amounts of capital to push prices significantly higher. If mainstream investors suddenly begin moving into silver, the effects could become dramatic very quickly. And perhaps that is why emotions are beginning to rise across the precious metals community. Some believe silver is preparing for a once-in-a-generation breakout. Others remain skeptical after years of sideways movement. But even skeptics are starting to admit that current conditions look unusual. Industrial demand is growing. Supply is tightening. Global debt is rising. Inflation remains a long-term concern. And investor interest appears to be slowly returning. The question now is not whether silver matters. The real question is whether the world is about to rediscover just how important silver truly is. As silver continues building pressure beneath the surface, many investors are beginning to ask the same question: what could finally trigger the breakout? Markets usually need a catalyst before major moves happen, and several possible catalysts are already developing right now. One of the biggest is the possibility of another global economic slowdown. If economies weaken sharply, central banks may once again lower interest rates or restart aggressive money printing programs. That could increase inflation fears and drive investors back into precious metals very quickly. Another possible catalyst is the continued rise of geopolitical instability. The world today feels increasingly divided. Trade conflicts, military tensions, sanctions, and global competition are creating uncertainty across financial markets. In uncertain times, investors often seek assets with historical value and stability. Silver benefits from this because it acts as both a monetary metal and an industrial resource at the same time. There is also the possibility of a supply shock. If mining disruptions increase or industrial demand suddenly spikes faster than expected, the silver market could face a shortage situation. Since silver inventories are not unlimited, even small disruptions can have major effects on price. Some experts believe the world may underestimate how difficult it will be to meet future silver demand while also supporting green energy goals. Retail investors may also play a bigger role than many expect. Social media and online financial communities have changed how markets behave. Information spreads faster than ever before. When people become excited about a specific asset, momentum can build rapidly. We already saw this happen in multiple markets over the past few years. If silver ever captures mainstream public attention again, buying pressure could increase dramatically in a short period of time. But despite all the excitement, experienced investors continue warning people to stay realistic and patient. Silver is known for volatility. Prices can rise quickly, but they can also fall sharply during corrections. Emotional investing often leads to bad decisions. The people who usually benefit most from long-term silver trends are those who remain disciplined and think beyond short-term price swings. What makes silver fascinating is that it sits at the crossroads of finance, industry, technology, and human psychology. It is not just a metal anymore. It represents trust, scarcity, energy transition, inflation protection, and industrial necessity all at once. Very few assets in the world carry that combination of characteristics. For years, silver remained outside the spotlight while other markets captured public attention. But history often rewards patience. The biggest opportunities usually appear when most people are distracted elsewhere. That is why many silver investors believe today's quiet period could eventually be remembered as the calm before a major storm. And if they are correct, the coming years could completely change how the world values silver. The metal that many ignored for decades could suddenly become one of the most desired assets on Earth. Whether that happens slowly or all at once remains uncertain. But one thing is becoming clear: silver is no longer just sitting quietly in the background. The pressure is building, the fundamentals are changing, and the market may be closer to a historic turning point than most people realize. One message stands out above everything else. The silver market today does not look normal. Demand is rising from both investors and industry. Supply challenges continue growing. Global debt remains massive. Inflation fears have not disappeared. Trust in financial systems is weakening in many parts of the world. And while most people still are not paying attention, the foundation for a potentially massive silver move appears to be forming quietly beneath the surface. This does not guarantee overnight riches, and it does not mean silver only moves in one direction. Markets are unpredictable, and volatility will always exist. But throughout history, some of the biggest opportunities appeared during moments when the majority of people were distracted or skeptical. Many silver investors believe we may be entering one of those moments right now. If silver truly is preparing for its biggest move of the century, the early stages may look exactly like what we are seeing today: confusion, disbelief, low public interest, and slow accumulation by patient investors. Then suddenly something changes. Momentum builds, headlines appear, fear and excitement spread, and prices begin moving faster than anyone expected. That is why more people are starting to watch silver closely again. Not because of hype alone, but because the economic and industrial story behind silver is becoming harder to ignore. The world is changing rapidly, and silver may end up playing a much bigger role in that future than most people currently understand. For long-term believers, this is not just about price targets. It is about preparation. It is about understanding how global systems are shifting and recognizing where real-world value may exist during uncertain times. Whether silver reaches new highs next year or takes longer, the conversation around silver is clearly growing stronger. And maybe that is the biggest signal of all. The market is slowly waking up. Thank you for watching Pulse of Silver. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest updates on silver, precious metals, and the global financial system. Let us know in the comments. Do you believe silver is about to make the biggest move of the century, or do you think the market is still years away from a true breakout? This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video should be considered financial advice, investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any asset. Financial markets involve risk, and prices can move up or down unexpectedly. Always do your own research and speak with a licensed financial advisor before making any investment decisions.